Kurdish inhabitants of this land say it's tradition to celebrate spring and the opening of the new year with bonfires of hope. This year the festivities are unusually large and people are considerably more hopeful than they've been for many years. Among those here to celebrate the new year is a 34-year-old human rights activist turned politician. His name is Osman, and this is the first day of the last week of his campaign. Only 3 months ago, Osman was in San Francisco studying English. Now he's become something of a local superstar. If Osman wins this election, he'll become mayor of the greater municipality of Diyarbakir, a city of about 1 million people. It's the largest city in Turkey's southeastern region and is sometimes known as the Kurdish capital of the country because around 3/4 of its population is Kurdish. Local officials estimate that about 70% of Diyarbakir's population is unemployed, or at least underemployed. The average family here makes about $290 a month, about a third less than the national average. More than half its population is younger than 15. Still, compared to a decade ago, when the region was engulfed in a bloody war between the Turkish state and Kurdish rebels, Diyarbakir is bustling. Its historic city walls, among the longest continuous walls in the world outside China, have been cleaned and restored. There are new businesses, big grocery stores, internet cafes, thriving markets, cleaned up public parks, and a palpable sense of hope. There is also more freedom. Turkey's Kurds make up around 1/5 of the country's total population. Afraid they might try to establish their own state, Turkish officials long tried to suppress public expressions of Kurdish identity. The notorious Diyarbakir prison has, over the years, confined thousands of people who campaigned for Kurdish rights. Among them were poets, human rights advocates, and politicians, including former Diyarbakir Mayor Mehdi Zana. He spent more than 16 years in jail for his activism. Osman is a member of the Democratic People's Party, also known as DEHAP in its Turkish acronym. The party is best known for promoting the idea that Kurds in Turkey deserve more political and cultural freedom. Candidates and parliamentary deputies from such parties have been the targets of assassination and prosecution. But this year, the atmosphere in the southeast is sufficiently relaxed for candidates like Osman to campaign more freely and more safely. This day of campaigning in a working-class Diyarbakir neighborhood began at around 8 a.m. and lasts all day. They may be outfunded by other parties, but it is well known that they have the most popular support among ordinary people who see them as best representing Kurdish national aspirations and as a way to express dissatisfaction with state policies. Using Kurdish as well as Turkish helps Osman impress upon voters that he's one of them, and not simply someone who will become part of the Turkish political establishment. On Tuesday, The campaign heads northeast out of Diyarbakir to the town of Kulp. It's the first time pro-Kurdish candidates have been allowed to campaign there in many years. In this part of Turkey, campaign convoys pile up at military checkpoints between towns. They're a reminder that only 5 years ago, these mountains were home to the rebels of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, which fought a 14-year war with the Turkish state for Kurdish independence. For this election, Osman's party formed a coalition with another, more mainstream party that goes by the acronym of SHP. Osman came to Kulp to support the local pro-Kurdish candidate.
Başidik, Anva, Kulp halkı, hepinizi Nevroz coşkusuyla, Nevroz aşkıyla selamlıyorum, saygılar sunuyorum. Kulp'tan Türkiye'nin dört bir yanına müjdeler olsun. Diyarbakır'dan Kulp'a müjdeler olsun. Demokratik güç birliği oluştu. Hakkari'den Edirne'ye, Diyarbakır'dan Ankara'ya, Trabzon'dan Mersin'e, Dörtliye'nin dört yanında kültürlerimiz, inançlarımız, farklılıklarımız, kimliklerimiz aynı çatı altında buluştu. Mezopotamya'nın güneşi ve Zeytinburnu buluştu. Türkiye çok büyük acılar yaşadı. Bölgemiz çok büyük acılar yaşadı. Kentimiz Diyarbakır, 26 medeniyetten devraldığımız Mezopotamya'nın kadın kenti, baş şehri Diyarbakır, Ahmet çok büyük acılar yaşadı. Kulp ilçemiz bu acıların yaşadığı coğrafyadır. İnsanlarımız bu acıları halen yüreklerinde yaşamaya devam ediyorlar. Ama bütün bu acılarımız ortaktır. Bizlere 15 yıllık çatışma ortamını reva görenler, bir kısım insanlarımızın eline zorla silah tutuşturup onları kendi halkının karşısına, demokrasinin karşısına dikenler artık bu politikadan vazgeçmek durumunda kalmışlardır. Bizler bu coğrafyanın kadim insanları, bizler bütün coğrafyamızı sahipleniyoruz. Hakkari'den Edirne'ye kadar sahipleniyoruz. Trabzon'dan Mersin'e kadar sahipleniyoruz. Ve burada yaşayan bütün insanlarımızı sahipleniyoruz. Alevileri sahipleniyoruz. Sünnileri sahipleniyoruz. Çerkezleri, Arapları, Kürtleri ve Türkleri hepsini sahipleniyoruz. Hepsinin yeri barış kervanının ta içidir, merkezidir. Geçici köy korucuları bizim kardeşlerimizdir. Onların acılarını yüreğimizle paylaşıyoruz. Çatışmalarda yaşamını yitiren askerler bizim kardeşlerimizdir. Acılarını paylaşıyoruz. Çatışmada yaşamını yitiren dağdakiler, gerillalar, onlar da kardeşimizdir. Acılarını paylaşıyoruz. Saygıdeğer Kulp halkı, 5 yıllık yerel yönetimler iktidarı deneyimimizle Diyarbakır için, bölgemiz için entegre projelerle geliyoruz. Birbirinden değerli arkadaşlarımız ve kadrolarımızla geliyoruz. 5 yıl boyunca Kulp'ta atılan her temelde, her hizmette, her asfaltta Diyarbakır Büyükşehir Belediye'mizin ve alt kademe belediyelerimizin katkısı vardır. Teşekkür ediyoruz kendilerine. Teşekkür ediyoruz. Ve Kulp halkı, Kulp Belediyesi Diyarbakır Büyükşehir Belediyesi ile birlikte, alt kademe belediyelerimizle birlikte, entegre projelerle Kulp'un kaderini değiştirmek için adayız. Kulp halkı bunun için mücadele etmeye var mı? Kulp halkı hazır mı? Dileşen ki Çave derya xolil seriya. Çave menederi halkı. 80 yıldır bu coğrafyaya hizmet etmeyenler yarın da hizmet etmeyecekler. Bundan şüpheniz olmaz. Ne diyorlar? Geleceğiz, Kulp'a hizmet götüreceğiz diyorlar. Getirmezler. Ankara nereye, Kulp nereye? Ama Diyarbakır burada. Diyarbakır Büyükşehir burada.
Temizlendiniz, paklandınız.
On the road back to Diyarbakir, the campaign convoy stops for a rare break. It's time to freshen up and enjoy a meal by a river.
You look good.
Thank you. Come, درباس يالي بس. Osman abi. Görüşme yapamaz mı? Mümkün değil bu saatte. Evet. Onu öyle şey. Fazla boşalsın. Şimdi de vaziyet
Niye?
Niye aday adayımız ya? Çoktan aday adayımız.
It's a moment of peace until the cell phone buzzes. Osman, though, is happy to report back on how well the day has gone and how enthusiastically he and other pro-Kurdish candidates were received.
Müthiş bir ziyafet çekmişiz kendimize. Kulp'un hani bu baş kaldırısından sonra bu ziyafet şarttı. Harika bir şey. Doğa. Evet, yoldaşlar ve biz.
The convoy takes a different road back, just as scenic, although perhaps a little more congested with four-footed traffic.
Baby back there.
A day later, and Osman has moved on to another day of campaigning in the small city of Hazro. He's here to support the campaign of another pro-Kurdish candidate, a young computer engineer from a prominent local family. Speeches are one way to rally a crowd, but so is music, used here to create a festival-like atmosphere. This is a typical part of most campaigns in this part of the country.
Demokratik güç birliğinin kapısı, Zeytin Dalı'nın kapısı, bütün Hazrolu yurttaşlarımıza, hemşerilerimize açıktır. Buyurun gelin. Halkımızın yanında
Most
yer
of
alın.
Osman's speech is in Turkish. It's still forbidden for candidates to use any other language, especially Kurdish, in public. Nonetheless, Osman slips into Kurdish now and then, especially when speaking to the local women, many of whom don't know much Turkish.
Kurtuluşu sizlerin elinde. Daikno, daikne şerin. Emjvara geleki dindarın. Esevidarım rojeki.
Hazro's population grew dramatically in the 1990s because of fighting between the army and the PKK, when millions of people were forced to leave their villages. There are now about 20,000 people living here. At least 40% of them are displaced villagers.
Hazro halkı.
After the speeches, it's time for more music and dancing. Osman turns out to be quite a popular dance partner. Most voting in Turkey is done in schoolhouses. After voters verify that they're properly registered and in the right place, they can take a ballot and mark off their choices. Turkey uses what's known as a party list system, so in most cases voters simply choose the party of their choice rather than vote for individual candidates. Voting is supposed to be done in secret, although privacy isn't always easy to find. In larger towns and cities like Diyarbakir, parties contesting the election each send a representative to oversee the process and ensure fairness, and here the voting seemed to go smoothly for the most part.
Tayfun Ertan size anlatacak.
Tamam, sağ ol.
Evet, aslında sayıların...
Election results start to come in about 3 hours after the polls close. Osman, anticipating a victory, is preparing his notes. As the first results start to come in, he's not disappointed. He and his party look poised to take the city.
Size birkaç...